Hello, my name is David Diley, welcome to the Scarlet View, and today we're going to be looking at digital grading and asking the question, hire a colorist or just do it yourself? If you're an amateur or professional filmmaker or you run a small video production company, you're probably very familiar with this process. Lock and edit, apply a LUT, make some basic changes, and then export. We're very lucky these days in that most editing software comes with color correction and grading plugins included. So with that being the case, why would you hire a colorist? I wanted to put that to the test, so I enlisted the help of a friend of mine, Alex, who runs a small video production company here in the UK. And I wanted to see what, if any, differences we could find in both workflows. So comparing someone who isn't a professional colorist to someone who is a professional colorist. And it's very, very subjective. So if you have any comments or there's any that you prefer, I would really like to know. So please let me know in the comments below. So the process was the following. I asked online, people donated clips, and then I said to Alex, I gave him a very basic overview of the kind of look I wanted him to go for. And then we took the two sets of clips and then we're going to compare them next to each other now and see what you think. Okay, so this first clip was provided by Nikolas, and the brief for this was quite simple, something punchy and cinematic. So starting off with Alex, the first thing he did was to apply a LUT to his footage with some basic correction in the contrast and saturation. Now, because there's some noise in the footage, he then did some denoising, and that is Alex's grade. Moving on to my grade, I started with a basic balance. Then after that, I cooled down the shadows and midtones slightly and also brought some midtone detail out. After that, I worked on the skin tone and then applied some film stock on there to give it that lovely organic filmic feel. After applying the film stock, I desaturated the shadows and highlights, then applied some denoising, some sharpening and some film grain at the end as well. So starting off with Alex's grade, and following that with my grade. This next clip was provided by Bloom of A Very Cold Winter's Day in Richmond, and the look for this that we went for was the very classic, very popular hipster look. So starting again with Alex, the first thing he did was apply a LUT to his footage with some basic correction in saturation. And he then lifted the shadows because no hipster look is complete without lifted shadows. For my grade, the first thing I did as usual was to apply a basic balance. Then after that basic balance, I lifted the blacks to give it that lovely creamy milky look, which is extremely popular at the moment. After that, I applied two gradients, a blue one in the bottom corner and a warm one in the top, and blurred out the highlights to soften them out a little bit. I followed that out by applying some film stock in there, and then did some slight desaturation in the shadows and the highlights, and that completes my grade. So if we compare the two, starting again with Alex, and then moving on to mine. This next clip is another provided by Nikolas of this lovely fella hanging around on a tree, and the brief for this is again very simple, the classic natural history look. So to begin with Alex again, he started by applying a LUT. He then made some changes in contrast and saturation, and there's quite a lot of noise in this footage, so he applied some denoising, and that is Alex's grade. For my grade, as usual, I started out with a basic balance. After that basic balance, I then brought out some mid-tone a little bit to bring out the details in his face. Followed that up by working on the oranges and the greens. And then did some more work on the contrast of the image, followed by bringing his eyes out a little bit more. After bringing the eyes out, I then did some work on the denoising, some sharpening, some film grain, and that's my grade. So starting again with Alex. And following that up with mine. The next clip comes from Raafi Rivero, and straight out the box, this is a beautiful shot. There's so much in here that as a colorist you like to work with. So the brief for this was to give it that cool nighttime feel, something a little bit more sinister going on. Again, starting with Alex's grade. The first thing he did was to apply his LUT. After applying his LUT, he made some basic changes in contrast and exposure, and then added another LUT right at the back end to give it that nice moonlight feel, which I think works quite well. For my grade, I started off as usual by doing a basic balance. After that basic balance, I really pushed the blues to cool everything down and give it that nighttime feel. After that, I shaped the light I found behind him to be quite distracting. Then applied a film stock. Then after that film stock, I then did some more correction with exposure and contrast to really bring those shadows down a bit more. Then did some desaturation in the shadows and added some sharpening. And that completes my grade. So comparing the two, once again, we start with Alex. And then we follow that up with my grade. So there you have it. What do you think? Anything that you particularly prefer, anything that you change, any big differences? Make sure to let me know in the comments below. I'd like to say a big thank you to Nikolas Moldenhauer, Bloom and Raafi Rivero for providing the footage. I really appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much. Make sure to check out the links to their work in the description below. If you like what you've seen and you're looking forward to seeing more, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and I'll see you next time.